Brazil, the country of samba and known as the South American giant, finds itself at the center of a linguistic and political controversy that goes beyond its educational system, and that could potentially change the geopolitical dynamics of the region. Very recently, a coalition of European countries led by France intervened to prevent Spanish from being established as a mandatory teaching language in Brazilian schools. But what's behind all of this? Why is Europe so afraid of the Iberiphone Union in America? We'll explain this and much more to you below. The history of mandatory Spanish education in Brazil officially began in 2005 with the enactment of Law Number 11,161, known as the Spanish Law, under the government of President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. This law stipulated that Spanish would be offered along with English as a mandatory foreign language in high schools throughout the country. The intention was clear: to promote regional integration in Latin America and to take advantage of Brazil's cultural and geographic proximity to Spanish-speaking countries, to form a powerful bloc of economic and cultural alliances that would foster closer ties between Brazil and its closely related neighboring countries on the continent. Brazil, as a regional power and with full bilingual proficiency in Spanish, would have the perfect economic, geographic, and political conditions to achieve an Iberiphone unification on a global scale, which has not been fully achieved due to the perceived barrier between Portuguese and Spanish speakers. Under the presidency of Dilma Rousseff, Lula's successor, the law remained in force, strengthening linguistic and cultural ties with the Hispanic community. However, in 2017, President Michel Temer repealed this requirement in favor of English only, arguing the need to align with global trends and the importance of English in the international job market. Therefore, the so-called Spanish law was only in effect for 12 years. However, with the return of President Lula da Silva to power, efforts to seek unification once again were resumed. In June 2024, the Brazilian Senate approved a new bill to reinstate Spanish as a mandatory language in secondary education, more specifically in the last 3 years of high school. A measure that received popular and political support from some sectors of society, reflecting the desire of many Brazilians to reaffirm their connection with the region. However, this proposal did not become law due to the recent diplomatic intervention by France, followed by support from the consular bodies of Italy and Germany. The embassies of these countries officially stated that the measure went against the promotion of multilingualism in Brazil. According to statements by Hélène Ducré, spokesperson for the French embassy, the imposition of Spanish could undermine efforts to maintain healthy linguistic diversity in the country, which, according to cable news network En Español, would have tremendous consequences. However, various critics of this position suggest that the real fear of France and its allies, that is, Italy and Germany, is the strengthening of an Ibero-American bloc that could challenge Europe's cultural and economic hegemony in the region, since there is concern that a strong Ibero-American bloc, led by Brazil together with Mexico, Argentina, Chile, and Colombia, could reorganize the geopolitical order of global influence. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell to remind you when there's a new video. The intervention of the European nations in the Brazilian legislative process was evident and caused both chambers of the Brazilian parliament to vote against the new proposed law, leaving only President Lula's approval pending for its definitive cancellation, which could happen at any moment. Why is France so influential in Brazil? Actually, there are strong bilateral cooperation ties between these two nations. On one hand, France is trying to regain its influence in South America. That's why President Emmanuel Macron made a diplomatic trip through South America in March 2024, with Brazil as the main reason for his visit, in an effort to restore the relations that deteriorated during the government of Jair Bolsonaro. Let's keep in mind that Brazil is the largest market for French imports in all of Ibero-America and maintains bilateral cooperation with France in defense matters. During the visit we mentioned, construction began on Brazil's third diesel-electric submarine using French technology. So we might think that by simple logic, these ties with France made the protests from the French embassy effective. Cancel Spanish language promotion in Brazil? On the other hand, the path of Spanish in Brazil is not a bed of roses at all. Although there have been significant improvements in Brazilians' interest in learning Spanish, there is still a majority who simply are not interested in learning it for various reasons. According to data from Ethnologue, about 460,000 people in Brazil speak Spanish fluently or natively, and there are another 6 million people who are learning it in language institutes. Brazil's decision ultimately must be respected as a sovereign decision, but it cannot be denied that not teaching Spanish in Brazil represents a significant blow to Iberophonie, a concept that encompasses the global community of Spanish and Portuguese speakers. Since, as we have said before, its active participation in this linguistic bloc would not only strengthen cultural and economic relations in Latin America, but would also position the region as a relevant player on the international stage, something we would hardly achieve separately. Furthermore, it restricts the opportunities for Brazilians to interact and collaborate with their Spanish-speaking neighbors in a context where regional alliances are more important than ever. The other possible reason, which could make sense for France's opposition to the mandatory teaching of Spanish in Brazil, has its roots in the policy of Francophonie, an initiative to promote the French language and culture around the world. The expansion of Spanish in Brazil could challenge this initiative, reducing French influence not only in Brazil, but throughout Ibero-America. In response to these dynamics, the FICA Espanol movement has emerged in Brazil, a citizen initiative that seeks to preserve and promote the teaching of Spanish in the country. This movement has gained traction, mobilizing students, educators, and citizens who see Spanish not only as an educational tool, but also as a symbol of cultural connection. FICA Espanol has led demonstrations and social media campaigns. Social networks arguing that Spanish is essential for Brazil's economic and cultural integration in the region, and it could boost opportunities in trade, tourism, and diplomacy. In conclusion, while Brazil navigates these turbulent waters to define which languages are most suitable for its curriculum, the future of Spanish in Brazil remains uncertain. However, what is clear is that the decision Brazil makes will have significant implications, not only for its own future, but also for the balance of power in the world, Iberophone. And you, what do you think about this situation? I invite you to leave your opinion in the comment box. And that's all for today. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to this channel. I also invite you to activate the bell so you'll be notified when there's a new video. See you soon.